I think the shareholders of Woolworths and Coles have got a lot to answer for, because I think they've been ruthless with their profits and causing half the problem. And, the cost of production's so high in Australia that it's very hard to compete.
For potatoes, it's a case of déjà vu. And just like in 2005, farmers are once again feeling the pressure from an influx of frozen imported chips in supermarket freezers and in fast food outlets. On the rich soils of Tasmania's northwest, tractors are working round the clock to plant the state's prized potato crop, destined for French fries. For Matt Ryan, it's been a tense few months leading up to planting. Growing, processing potatoes in Tasmania costs roughly $22,000 a hectare.
Potato growing is extraordinarily high cost and it's extraordinarily high risk. So none of us need to go to the casino or go to the horse racing or anything like that, or even dabble in sports bet.
Several months ago, growers clashed with vegetable processor Simplot over its decision to slash next season's potato prices. The multinational blaming cheaper frozen chip imports for eroding its competitive advantage. Rewind 20 years and the tractors were on the road then too, some of them the same ones, heading for Canberra. Different time, same problem.
We know how important it is to make it clearly identifiable to Australians that when they buy Aussie food, they know it's Aussie.
Back then, farmers were angry at fast food chain McDonald's for cutting French fry contracts worth $10 million and importing product from New Zealand. It kick-started the Fair Dinkum Food Campaign and a national conversation about clearer country of origin labelling.
And I look at sweet corn, and it's from the USA.
Shame.
Whose bloody home's that? It's certainly not ours.
Volunteers pitched in, organising road permits, accommodation, food and fuel for a 2,000-kilometre tractor trek from the Apple Isle across multiple states to Parliament House. Leading the charge, the Country Women's Association and Women in Agriculture.
The whole logistics with organising this was a huge undertaking, but it worked because the women worked together.
In many respects, women do most of the logistics on farm anyway. So, and it was infectious to be involved with, and we wanted it to be successful, and it was important that it was successful. So all hands on deck, and many hands make light work, don't they?
Former Woolworths distribution manager and vegetable grower Richard Bovell became the face of the campaign.
Initially, the whole concept it felt like a pretty risky venture because you're going completely out of your own turf. You're going to cause difficulty for the travelling public on the mainland. So everything that we did, first of all, had to be non-intrusive on the people over there because we wanted their support, not their aggression towards a bunch of tractors going up the road. And we had to develop a strong message.
He felt supermarkets were putting profits before local food production.
Straight cut chips. We lost a $10 million contract and we're bringing chips in from Belgium, heavily subsidised.
You've done your job. You've raised the profile of the issue. You've stirred the imagination of customers and consumers, and you've frightened the bejesus out of the supermarkets and fast food retail outlets.
The movement united farmers across rural Australia, for some, in more ways than one. It's where vegetable grower Scott Elphingston met his future wife, Gemma.
Well, I'm not sure people really knew much about us or not, really. A few whispers, perhaps. But, yeah, a happy ending anyway for us.
So was it the best thing to come out of the campaign was the Elphingston?
I think it might have been. It was long-standing anyway. Everything else sort of whispered and died off, but we continued on. So, yeah,
Sure
probably
did.
so, yeah.
Yeah. 2 kids. Life's good.
The Buy Australia movement from 2005 led to an eventual overhaul of country of origin labelling. Initially, it was voluntary, but it showed not just where the product was packed, but grown as well. Richard Bovell admits that was a big win for the industry.
As a result of that campaign, the fact that we had both Coles and Woolworths coming out with their Australian branded product very clearly, it gave consumers the opportunity to buy it, and for a period of time they voted with their feet, and there was a significant improvement in sales, and at that stage Simplot acknowledged that they were getting an uplift in sales as a result of that.
In 2018, mandatory country of origin labelling rules were introduced. But processed vegetable imports have crept back onto shelves, with supermarkets stocking more of their own brands. Retail expert Louise Grimmer has been tracking this trend.
We see a lot of private label products across supermarkets, and often, as we've discovered, you don't even know they're private label.
For the major retailers, this applies to a range of groceries, including frozen vegetables.
It says here packed in Belgium from multiple origins, so they're not even actually from Belgium. They're packed in Belgium, but they've come from other parts of the world, and we don't even know which parts of the world. The other thing that's interesting is this is actually a private label product. So this is the lower tier of the home brand product for Woolworths. So you can clearly see it's a private label product, again, made in Belgium. Hasn't got its own branding like the Bell's Farms, but it's that lower tier, lower price point.
Woolworths says the majority of its frozen vegetables own brand range is locally sourced and has been for some time, while its tinned vegetables own brand offering is sourced globally to help meet customer demand. For frozen and canned vegetables, Coles says it works with a mix of Australian and international suppliers to ensure consistent year-round availability. Adding that geographic diversification helps protect customers from seasonal weather impacts and other supply chain disruptions.
In one country, and they can source.
But the rise in private label offerings by the major supermarkets hasn't gone unnoticed in vegetable growing districts.
From multiple origins.
Well, the thing is, where is it, Belgium or?
I wasn't going to say Belgium, but yeah. Packed in Belgium, multiple origins.
Last year, Coles wrapped up its 8-year contract with vegetable processor Simplot to supply its private label brand with Tasmanian peas. It's since renegotiated a new deal, but it's not exclusively bound to local product. Simplot says Woolworths has stepped up to fill that gap with a new long-term arrangement. Even so, farmers feel there are no guarantees the imports won't keep flooding in. And for those involved in the tractor trek to Canberra 20 years ago, they fear Australia will lose its ability to grow and process its own food.
I think the shareholders of Woolworths and Coles have got a lot to answer for, because I think they've been ruthless with their profits and causing half the problem. And, the cost of production's so high in Australia that it's very hard to compete.
For potatoes, it's a case of déjà vu. And just like in 2005, farmers are once again feeling the pressure from an influx of frozen imported chips in supermarket freezers and in fast food outlets. Once again, they feel pushed to a point where it's hard to make money.
First of all, before I hand over to Nathan Richardson as Chair of the Veg Council, just for a brief introduction, can I just say thank you so much to those who brought tractors today.
After prolonged negotiations, Simplot and its growers agreed to a contract price for next season's spuds. It's been a particularly difficult year for the two to find common ground. But what they can agree on is that if costs continue to rise, more imports will appear on supermarket shelves.
And I don't want to be... Oh, I'm pretty certain I'll be here in 20 years' time, but I'd really like to not be sitting here in another 20 years. Talking about the same thing.
So it's not just about frozen vegetables, like you said, it's an Australia-wide issue.
But
It's food in general.
And the other thing is we shouldn't... Nobody's prepared to talk about the real problem, and that's the cost of doing business in Australia.
Earlier this year, the federal government announced it would spend $20 million on a new campaign encouraging people to buy Australian. But when household budgets are so stretched, do people really care where their products come from? Matt Ryan reckons they can't afford not to.
You know, we do have short memories, and it's only a few years ago there was a pandemic when supply lines were cut and we couldn't get products into Australia that we rely on. And, you know, you can walk around with a pair of worn-out socks or a pair of worn-out undies for a couple of weeks and put up with it, but you can't go without food, and the processed food industry is a big part of that.
So if someone says to us, oh, do you look for Australian products and for local products? Of course, it's really important to support farmers. But, you know, when you've got households that are struggling and you might have two products and really there's not a lot of difference between them, but one is a lot cheaper, that's going to be the product that many households will select, and that might not be a locally grown or Australian product.
Today, Matt Ryan has scaled back vegetable production, dividing his time between potato farming and dairying. And daughter Katie, who played her part all those years ago, has taken an interest in the business.
It's what you were wearing when you were a toddler when we did 20 years ago when we did the Fair Dinkum Food Campaign.
Yeah, a bit of time ago now.
Yeah, and you were this high.
It's about creating another public debate, and it's about engaging with the politicians and the people that do make decisions, and also holding and putting our hand up and holding those retailers to account and say, hey, it's not okay. You know, you want to make profits in Australia and you want to make profits in the community. How about supporting the industries that the communities rely on here and are vital for our future and for our food security, and it's a sovereign risk issue, to be honest.
Richard Bovell is now semi-retired, leasing out his vegetable farms and focusing on livestock. His passion for locally grown food hasn't wavered.
It's only Australian consumers, by their behaviour, that can make these industries stay in Australia and exist. If they're not buying Australian product, ultimately these factories will disappear, and when they're gone for good.